Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing today? Another serious video. This is like my third serious video in a row. In fact, I didn't think that I was going to film a video today. I was just going to film a vlog today because it is the weekend and I wanted to relax this weekend. And tomorrow I'm probably taking the whole day off from filming because it is my nephew's birthday. And so we're going over to my brother and sister-in-law's house for his birthday party tomorrow. So I think I'm just gonna take the whole day off to spend with family and just kind of hang out and relax and things like that. So I thought that I might take today off too. This is kind of like a running joke on my channel because I constantly talk about, I thought today I was gonna take the day off. But I woke up and my husband was like, since we're not going to brunch tomorrow, do you want to go to brunch today? So we went to brunch, and I asked him what he was going to do when he came home, and he was like, I'm going to rest for a little bit. And so I thought to myself, well, I might as well make a video since I'm not going to make a video tomorrow. And I actually had something that I wanted to talk about because I got some comments on my last couple videos that I did about Natalia Grace and Gypsy Rose Blanchard that, I don't know, kind of like ruffled my feathers a little bit. And I felt like I needed to talk about it and I needed to address kind of how I felt about it. I want to say this before I go into this video. I always appreciate different points of view in the comment sections of my videos. I appreciate, especially, you know, like when they're not like just, you know, gunning for somebody, but when they're fair comments, they're opinion-based comments, just somebody's like, you know, like, oh, I see it a different way, or I disagree with you, or whatever. Often my opinion changes. In this situation of what I've been talking about with Gypsy Rose Blanchard and Natalia Grace, and their stories coming out at the same time, and the comparison of their popularity and fame and their need for popularity and fame and things like that based on their histories and their stories, my opinion has not changed. And so there were some things that I was thinking about last night as I was reading through some of the comments from my video from the day before that I had done about Natalia Grace. And some of the comments, I just was like, this is the perpetuation of the traumatizing of a victim. I'm talking about Natalia Grace, and at the expense of the you know, sensationalization of by production of the series, The Curious Case of Natalia Grace. So if you didn't watch the video that I did the other day, that was probably the most important piece to me of that whole story, was the fact that I felt that the production team had done a very good job at trying to sensationalize the story of Natalia Grace so that they could get a lot of views and high ratings on the series and things like that. In watching the second part of the series, Natalia Speaks, it was even more apparent to me that that was the case, right? And at the precipice of this whole sensationalization of this story is, what is the age of Natalia Grace? In fact, when you Google search Natalia Grace, several of the things that come up are, like if you just look at like the top 10 searches for Natalia Grace, some of the things are, what is her actual age? Was she pretending to be a child? Is she a liar? Things like that, right? So I think that it's interesting that now that two parts of the series has come out and there's been a lot of proof in the series, and yet people are still questioning it. In fact, I got a few comments on my video and people were saying things like, I think everybody in the series is lying, including Natalia. I think this whole situation is weird. I think that everybody is weird and lying and manipulating, especially Natalia. And so here it is again, that Natalia Grace, who is the victim in this whole situation, right, is the one that is perpetuated as being the victim and is re-traumatized over and over and over again, right? Now, we know today that she is maybe not emotionally developed as an adult, but we know based on, you know, her sharing her age in the series and things like that, that she is an adult, a legal adult. So she has every right to say that she wants to do the series or not do the series. I am not really sure that Natalia Grace is getting the best advice from people around her. Because I think that it seemed to me that the first series came out that she wasn't happy, and based on what I have seen, right? That she wasn't really happy with the fact that she didn't really get to share her story in the first part of the series, and rightfully so, okay? So then she comes out and she shares her story in the second part. But what was interesting to me about the second part was that I went into it, and this is something I didn't say in the video the other day, that they really marketed this thing, the second part of the series, to the effect that Natalia Grace, she never got to have her say. So this is where she was going to come out and tell her story, which is why it was called Natalia Speaks, right? So it's a 6-part series. They show everything in there. She doesn't really get a lot of answers. They continue to perpetuate this idea of, was she a child? Was she an adult? All this kind of stuff, right? To the point where I'm doing a video, like not a highly viewed video, about the story of Natalia Grace. I mean, there are some channels out there that are getting hundreds of thousands of views talking about this. But I'm still getting several people, and I'm getting like DMs and stuff from people that are like, she was not a child, she was an adult when this whole thing happened, right? And I'm like, well, when you look at the evidence, that's not necessarily the case, okay? When you conclusively look at all the evidence together, that's not really the case. And I think that most people looking at this would be pretty obvious to most people that she was a child when all of this happened, okay? And there are several situations that go along with that. So in the second part, and I'm going to talk about that in just a second, but in the second part of the series, Natalia Speaks, this is her chance to tell her story. This is her chance to be vindicated. This is for her chance to be heard, right? And I shared a lot. If you haven't watched my first part of my response to this, go back and watch it. I will link it below, but they talk about this diagnosis of RAD, reactive attachment disorder, okay, which causes a lot of disruption and anger in people in childhood and in adulthood, right? And a lot of people who are in the foster care system, who are adopted, who are neglected, are diagnosed with RAD, okay? I mean, that's a lot of the people that have RAD have really chaotic home environments when they're growing up and things like that, right? And you're talking about a girl that was given up for adoption. She was in a Ukrainian orphanage. She was moved to the United States. She was in one adoptive family. They rehomed her, and another adoptive family adopted her, and then they neglected and abandoned her, aged her up, okay? And then she is now in her third adoptive home as an adult, okay? So I think, like, and looking at the story where people are like, well, everyone's weird, especially Natalia. Everyone's lying, especially Natalia, right? I mean, and this is where the comparison of Natalia Grace to Gypsy Rose Blanchard is so interesting to me, because you have Gypsy Rose Blanchard that was convicted of second-degree murder, okay? Convicted of it. Spent time in prison for second-degree murder. And people are like, yeah, but do you know what happened in her childhood? Like, her mother was so horrific, and, and she's doing TikToks, defining what Munchausen by proxy is, and educating people on Munchausen by proxy. At the time that Gypsy Rose Blanchard had her boyfriend kill her mother, she was a grown adult, okay? She wasn't 11 years old. She wasn't 8 years old. She wasn't 9 years old living in her own apartment. She was a grown adult. I believe she was 22 years old when this occurred. 22 or 23 years old. I have the screenshot, so I'll look it up in just a second, right? Gypsy Rose Blanchard does her time in prison, comes out, and every time I say this, I always get a few comments and people are like, that is just not true. So I'm going to show you the evidence today to prove that it's true. Comes out of prison and has a huge social media following, okay? Huge social media following. And is, linking her books and her new shows that are coming out and things like that, right? And I'm like, this is so interesting to me that Gypsy Rose Blanchard, who was convicted in this second-degree murder of her mother, right? People are lifting up and like, yes, Gypsy, you're out of prison and blah, 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 whatever, right? But Natalia Grace, who it has been proven by several different people that she was a child at this time, I'm like reading online, because one of the things that they show in the show is this DNA testing that she does through this lab, right? And I mentioned it in my video, and I got several comments from people that were like, well, those DNA tests aren't like proof, and if you go in and you read, and I'm reading these articles specifically about Natalia Grace and the DNA testing, and expert opinions are saying, well, that DNA testing is not really that accurate, and there's a lot of questioning of it, and it's biological DNA age versus chronological age, and all this kind of stuff, right? And yet again, Natalia Grace is having to prove herself. Now, that's not the only piece of evidence that has come out, right? We also have her pediatric dentist who, he's on camera, he shares on camera her x-rays of her teeth, shows her baby teeth, explains as an expert dentist, okay, that nobody would have that many baby teeth at that age, right? Okay, he says it. He says he told Christine Barnett, the mother, that her age was somewhere between the ages of 7 and 9, something they did not include in the original production, okay, the first series. He says it on camera. I mean, this is a dentist that is still practicing in Indianapolis, Indiana, who could, you know, lose his license and all that kind of stuff if he lied on camera. He has no problem getting on camera and showing the x-rays and explaining the x-rays and saying that he stands by his word that at that time that's what the age issue was, right? Not to mention that in the first series, they find her biological mother. Her biological mother shares what age she was when she was born, and if she was actually born, if she had a Natalia Grace in 1989, as the Barnetts suggest, okay, by her re-aging, then her biological mother would have had to have been 10 years old when she had Natalia Grace, okay? Not impossible, but very unlikely, all right? Especially when you see the woman today on video, all right? She says she knows exactly how old Natalia Grace is because she remembers the day that she was born. She says the day that she was born, and I believe the year was 2003 is what she says, right? Okay. So you have all these, they do this whole investigation trying to find the birth mother and all these kinds of things, right? So you have the birth mother's age of what she would have been in 1989, because she was born in 1979, okay? So she would have been 10 years old when she had Natalia Grace, which is, like I said, unlikely. And you have a DNA test, and you have a pediatric dentist, okay, getting on camera, throwing his reputation, I guess, out the window, and yet people are still demanding that Natalia Grace prove her age. You know, at this point, if I were Natalia Grace, I would say, screw you guys, I don't owe you nothing, okay, and I am not going to prove to you my age. I know what I am. But even further, what's interesting to me is, when you look at Natalia Grace, okay, because she would supposedly be 33 years old today by the age that they gave her, when I look at her and I see her in these interviews, okay, she does not look 33 years old, okay? And when they said that she was 17 to 20 years old and she was 7 or 8 years old, she did not look that age either. She looked 7 or 8 years old, okay? So there's, just based on what she looks like, okay, a pediatric dentist testimony in a video, her birth mother sharing her age as well as the date that Natalia Grace was born, and then on top of this, the DNA testing, which is the least of all of it, right? And yet people are still like, well, it's weird, she's lying, she's manipulating, she was really not a child. And it's like, how much does Natalia Grace have to prove for people to side with her that she is a victim in this entire thing? Not to mention this, okay? So, you know, there is a documentary that I watch. It's on YouTube. It's a very amateur documentary. It's not well made, but the story is very, very important, okay? And if you haven't watched it, and just get through it, trust me, the story is very, very important, okay? And the story is called Goodnight Sugar Babe, and that's what the documentary is called. And it's about this family, and they're very upset with the girlfriend of the son who it has developmental issues, and she is a grown adult at the time, and she has a baby, and they do all these things to torture her. They it's horrific what they do to her, right? Okay, you can be an adult and still be abused. So even if Natalia Grace, okay, was an adult, which I think she's proven by now that she wasn't, okay, are we saying that to be pepper sprayed in your face, to be forced to use a tampon, to have people, like, make you stand in a corner, okay, with physical disabilities where it's physically painful to do that for time on end? Are we saying that that's okay to do? Like, we're okay with that, right? For an adult, a child, somebody that is elderly, we're okay with that, right? So apparently what people are saying is that you're okay, because there's elderly abuse. That's a very serious thing in our world, right? There's adult abuse, okay? There's spousal abuse. I guess what people are saying is that kind of abuse is okay, which has been proven and documented in this documentary series, okay? But that's okay as long as that person is a liar and manipulator, right? So because she might be lying about her age, which she has proven over and over and over again that she's not, but if she is, that makes her weird. She's a horrible person, and I guess she deserved what she got, right? What world do we live in where people think that that's okay? Okay, I'm very confused about that. Like, that's disturbing to me that anybody would think that what Natalia Grace went through, much of which Michael Barnett sat there and totally supported and said that he stood there and watched, okay? So whether she was 16, whether she was 7, whether she was 26, or whether she was 66 really isn't the point, okay? You had one adult that was inflicting the abuse and another adult that was standing there watching it, okay? Now, in what world do we live in where anybody experience any kind of abuse, all right, that's okay? Because they were afraid that somebody that couldn't even reach their mattress was going to stab their toenails off or something? I'm confused by this, right? But yet people still say, I mean, we have to remember, too, this is the other thing, right? Like I said, I watch a lot of true crime documentaries. I watch a lot of documentaries. One of the things that's really important for me when I watch these things is to not always buy into the sensationalization of it and to realize, is it yeah, okay. And to realize that at the core of the story is a real human being, okay? Is a real human being. Like I said in my video the other day talking about Gypsy Rose Blanchard, Gypsy Rose Blanchard has done her time, okay? If she wants to go and live in, I think, Louisiana with her newfound husband, and she wants to go and have her life and do all that, I think that's completely fine. I do not believe that Gypsy Rose Blanchard deserves to have this huge following on social media. And every time I say that in videos, because I'm comparing these stories, right? Gypsy Rose Blanchard was part of the murder of somebody. I think that's important, okay? I have known many people in my life, and I shared this in my video talking about Gypsy Rose Blanchard. I know many people in my life that have suffered much worse abuse, okay? As a person that's been sober for 29 years and a few months, okay? If you knew some of the stories I have heard in the rooms of recovery and from friends of mine that are absolutely horrific, okay? Absolutely horrific. In people's own homes, from their own parents, in foster care systems, and on and on and on, okay? I feel for Gypsy Rose Blanchard for what she went through as a child. I do not think that it means that murder is okay. Now, apparently, she has come out and she has said that that is not, I looked it up, and she said something to the effect of that she wishes that that is not what she has done. She knows it was not the right thing. Hold on a second. Where is this at? Here's all my Gypsy Rose Blanchard and whatever. Apparently, she's coming on this People magazine article, and she has said, no one will ever hear me say I'm proud of what I did or glad that she's dead, Gypsy tells People magazine. I'm not proud of what I did, okay? So, I guess because she was part of the murdering of her mother because of what she went through as a child, and now she says she's not proud of it, we should applaud that? We applaud murderers today? I'm not saying she didn't do her time and that she shouldn't be able to go live her life because she's done her time. She did 8 out of 10 years, I believe, in prison. Let Gypsy Rose Blanchard go live her life. Do I think that she needs to be applauded as a celebrity? No, I think it's weird and I don't understand it, okay? I do not understand it at all. And when you go in here and you look, okay, because I wanted to see what the age was at the time that this murder occurred, and she was 23 years old, okay? Gypsy Rose Blanchard was 23 years old. After Dee Dee Blanchard was found dead in June 2015, Gypsy, who was 23 at the time, older than Natalia Grace is right now, okay? And her boyfriend at the time were both charged with murder, okay? And then when you go in here and you look and you see all this kind of stuff about what Gypsy Rose pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and served 8 years of a 10-year sentence. She was granted parole in September 2023 and was released from prison on December 28th of 2023. And her first selfie blew up, okay? And when I say that in videos, people are like, no, that's not true. That's not true whatsoever, okay? And the reason why it's important for me to compare these cases is because this goes along with what I was talking about yesterday when I was talking about the documentary that I watched, American Nightmare, okay? And the factor of believability when it comes to social media, all right? And what I need somebody to explain to me is why Natalia Grace has to constantly defend herself in the eyes of the public as being a weird, horrible, lying manipulator. But Gypsy Rose Blanchard, that actually murdered her mother, pled guilty to murdering her mother in second degree, or being part of her mother's murder, okay, is applauded and lifted up. And if you don't think that's true, let's go over here and look at the social media sites of these people, because I did. So let's just put this in perspective for a second, okay? Natalia Grace has a TikTok. She has 66.1 thousand followers. Remember that number, 66.1 thousand followers. She has 59,000 likes, okay? So let's put this in perspective of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Hold on a second. Where does Gypsy Rose Blanchard's TikTok? So Natalia Grace has 66.1 thousand followers on TikTok. You want to make a guess as to how many Gypsy Rose Blanchard has? I'm waiting. Na. So Natalia Grace has 66,000 followers on TikTok. Okay? Gypsy Rose Blanchard has been out of prison for a month. Not even. She has 9.9 million. 9.9 million followers on TikTok. Okay? And 55.1 million likes. Doesn't even pale in comparison. And it's constantly doing TikToks, Instagram Reels, Instagram Stories, and is always constantly linking the new book that she has coming out. And her new book that's just coming out, I believe it's called Released. Okay? And here is the book. Hold on a second. The book is called Released. Here it is, Released, right here. And Confessions on the Eve of Freedom, okay? So one of the major conversations about all of this with Gypsy Rose Blanchard is the Son of Sam law, right? And the Son of Sam law was a law that I believe came around and was made in 1971 or 1979 or something like that in the state of New York, because apparently serial killer David Berkowitz was going to come out with a story, a memoir telling what had happened with his story, his side of the story, right? If you don't know the story of David Berkowitz, he was the son of Sam, and it happened in New York City. So that was why the Son of Sam law came out, that convicts could not profit over their actions and their murders and things like that, and that if they did a book, sold their rights to a movie or a TV series, things like that, then the victims would receive all the proceeds from that, okay? Now, since then, the Son of Sam law has been found to be unconstitutional, but it's a state-to-state law, which means that each state gets to decide whether or not they are going to uphold this or not. And really what would need to happen is that the victims would need to sue the people in that state, okay? So, for example, the family, okay, of Gypsy Rose Blanchard's mother would need to sue Gypsy Rose Blanchard for the proceeds of her book. Now, I think we probably know that that's not going to happen. Gypsy knows that that's not going to happen, okay? So, the system's not going to fight that, so Gypsy Rose Blanchard can make money off of her crime that she committed, all right? It'd be one thing if she got in and she talked about everything that she had suffered as a child and didn't talk about that, right? But that's all part of the story, okay? A lot of people, I got online and I was reading a lot of things about this. A lot of people are saying that she could, like, his family, her boyfriend at the time, who she will not speak about in interviews. She won't talk about him in interviews, okay? That he could, his family could actually sue Gypsy Rose Blanchard as well for this, okay? But let's not just talk about her TikTok. Let's talk about her Instagram, okay? So Natalia Grace's Instagram, hold on a second, her Instagram has 30.1 thousand followers, okay? And it is unverified. I mean, she could buy verification, but it's unverified. She has 30.1 thousand followers, okay? Gypsy Rose Blanchard, hold on a second, where is this at? Gypsy Rose Blanchard has, why did I have this all pulled up? Okay. Natalia has 30.1 thousand followers on Instagram. Do you guys want to guess how many Gypsy Rose Blanchard? I said Natalia Grace has 30.1 thousand. How many do you want to guess that Gypsy Rose Blanchard has? You want to guess? No. She has 8.3 million followers, okay? Natalia Grace has 14 posts on her Instagram, okay? Gypsy Rose Blanchard has 41. Underneath here, she already is verified, okay, within a month of being out, and it's not a bot verification, okay, it's a given. Twitter has given a convicted murderer a verification on their Twitter account, okay? She has public figure, Munchausen syndrome by proxy advocate, and then she has her book linked, and then she has Lifetime movie now available on Prime Video, and she has all the links for all the things that you can purchase so that she can continue to make money off of the crime that she convicted, okay? So, Gypsy Rose Blanchard is using her social media to financially benefit herself. Now, people could say the same thing about Natalia Grace. In fact, people have said the same thing about Natalia Grace. People have said the same things on my video about Natalia Grace, in that she has a GoFundMe, and you're absolutely right. She does have a GoFundMe. She has a GoFundMe linked on her Instagram story. So, let's go read this. Hi, my name is Natalia Mans, aka Natalia Grace, and I recently moved out and am saving money to get my own house so I can have a personal place of my own, and I'm wanting to start my own photography business to create a fun and awesome way to have fun and do what I love, which is taking pictures and creating memories for myself and other people. I am doing this so I can have a fresh start in life as an adult and get past everything that happened in my life. She's not trying to monetize what happened to her life, okay? I have a type of dwarfism called dystrophic dysplasia. It's a form of dwarfism that has many serious issues which often require surgery. I'll likely have to have major spine surgery and even more surgery on my legs. The costs associated with these surgeries are in excess of $500,000 because the specialist does not accept my medical insurance. The first treatment I need is to have my spine connected, as if I leave it too long, it could lead to paralysis and incontinence. I would like to make enough, for those of you that don't know what incontinence is, it means that you cannot hold your bowels, okay? And that you go to the bathroom on yourself. But just so we know, okay? That she could go into paralysis and she could be constant and have no control over her own body, okay? I would like to make enough to at least put a deposit on my own place and start a business to start earning some money so I can start saving for this expensive treatment. However, if I reach over my goal, I will be able to put that towards the treatment I require to give me a better chance at getting enough to cover it. To all of you who have stuck through me by all of this, on and on and on. Where is it at? To all those who have stuck me through all of this, I cannot thank you enough. Love y'all, is what she says, okay? So, Natalia Grace, who, please make this make sense to me. I just need somebody to explain this to me, okay? Because this is where I lose hope for humanity and people out there that are keyboard warriors that sit behind the keyboard and just spout off a bunch of hate based on things they don't really know and don't really do a lot of research and defend the wrong people. And this is where I get frustrated, you know? It's like somebody said to me the other day on a video, they said, when I was talking about Natalia Grace, they said, thank God you're finally talking about things that are important. So I guess by that sentiment, you don't think that Colleen Ballinger, probably one of the biggest YouTubers ever with the biggest platform and the biggest fandom, that her allegedly abusing or allegedly having inappropriate conversations with minors and group chats and asking them sexual questions and on, you don't think that's a problem? You don't think James Charles having inappropriate conversations with minors is a problem? You don't think influencers violating FTC guidelines and breaking the law is a problem? You don't think that those are serious things to talk about? I think those are very serious things to talk about, you know? And I think this is a serious thing to talk about. And I need somebody to explain to me why, based on a television show, Gypsy Rose Blanchard has 15 television shows out, okay? Most of which are defending her and what she went through. And I don't take that away from her. I feel horrible, okay? I feel horrible about the abuse that Gypsy Rose Blanchard suffered at the hands of her mother. Do I think that that deserves murder? No, I don't. I think there were a lot of other options for her. And I know that that's not a popular opinion, apparently, because 9 million people follow her and support her. But I don't really care if it's not a popular opinion anymore. I'm not somebody that lifts up murderers, okay? Good. She changed. She's a different person today. Let her go live her life. Do I think that she deserves to have a social media platform and use her social media platform to sell books and TV shows? No, I don't think she does. Especially when you have somebody that at the exact same time this is going out, Natalia Grace is coming out to share her side of her story, and the public perception is that she's a liar, that she's a manipulator, that she's this horrible person, you know? Now we see that the tables are starting to turn on Gypsy Rose Blanchard, and what's so interesting to me about this is I did this video as well. What's so interesting to me about this is that it's a lot of young people that are about the same age as Gypsy Rose Blanchard that I think in some way relate to her. You know, it's like, well, I went through situations when I was a child and whatever, and she had to do what she had to do to get out of that situation. Gypsy Rose Blanchard was 23 years old, okay? She was 23 years old. She wasn't 10, okay? She was 23 years old when she committed this crime. It's very important to remember, okay? And I think it was a lot of young people that were relating to her story of what she had gone through and what they had gone through, right? And now I think people are starting to see that Gypsy Rose Blanchard is using her story to manipulate people, and people are now saying, well, she learned from the best. She learned from her mother, right? And she's using it all to make money and do all these things, right? Okay, and I'm not saying that that wouldn't make sense to me. that she wouldn't have some of the similar behaviors that she had that her mother had, because people are saying she learned from the best. Well, then she needs to get her ass into therapy and do a lot of work, okay? Maybe she is already. I'm sure she is. I'm sure she's in extensive therapy, right? But maybe then be in therapy. Maybe then just be a wife to your husband. Maybe then just find a passion in your life that you love to do because you spent the last 8 years in prison. Maybe start living a life again. I've had a lot of friends of mine that the camera stopped at the 30-minute mark. I've had a lot of friends of mine that have gone to prison for long periods of time and spent time in prison, okay? I can tell you the first thing that they're doing when they get out of prison is not taking a selfie and put it on Instagram. That's not the first thing that they're thinking about, okay? Some of the things that they're thinking about are, what meals do I want to eat, okay? How do I go on with my life? Who's going to hire me as a convict? That's a huge issue, okay? Because not many places will hire you as a convict. I guess it doesn't matter for Gypsy Rose Blanchard because she's making so much money over her popularity and her fame, okay? And selling of books and being in TV shows that she's obviously going to be like an executive producer because she's putting so much out about this TV show that's coming out, right? And like I said, I don't take away from her anything that she went through. But to me, you get out, and she's been on red carpet things. I found this picture where, you know, she's on this, she's been out less than a month, you guys. And here she is at the red carpet event. She's on the red carpet of the Prison Confessions of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. And I'm like, okay, so you're on the red carpet of these events, and Natalia Grace is defending herself, and people are like, she's a gross, horrible human being. She's a liar, and she's a manipulator. She didn't kill anybody. She didn't kill anybody. She didn't kill anybody. At worst, okay, Natalia Grace lied about her age. But what's so interesting to me that what people say, okay, when they defend that stance is that Natalia Grace lied about her age is, you don't really prove anything. Really all the proof that you have is pubic hair and the possibility of an early period, which the majority of people that commented on that comment on my last video that I did said that that's actually a normal thing and a disorder and a syndrome that a lot of women have at an early age. So that's not necessarily proof that she was an adult. In fact, none of these people are really given any proof that she was an adult. But she's provided several pieces of evidence that she wasn't an adult. But because of the sensationalization of this production, of this movie, people are now believing that Natalia Grace is a horrible person. And there will always be that person out there for the rest of her life that whatever job she tries to get, whatever apartment she tries to rent, whatever, will look at her and will say, oh, that's Natalia Grace. Is she a liar or is she for real? There will always be that person that will think that about her. And she knows that, right? And production allowed that piece, that phone call to go in when her parents, who are apparently still doing things with her, which I don't know what their motives are. I hope their motives are sincere. But I feel like everybody around Natalia Grace uses Natalia Grace, you know? Everybody. Everybody uses Natalia Grace. Everybody has failed Natalia Grace. It's what I said in my last video, you know? She's had 3 adoptive families and now they've all failed her, okay? And, you know, and what's so interesting to me is, okay, so they say that all these records are missing and things like that. If people really want to know her age so bad, why can't they just have, like, a police investigator or an FBI agent, if it's such a big deal, go to the orphanage that she was in? Oh, those records were lost? There have to be some legal records from a hospital. Oh, no, that hospital burnt down. Those records are missing. There have to be some records of the fact that this child, okay, was born, was transported to an orphanage, was given up for adoption, okay, was transported. Where are the documentation that she was transported to the United States? Where are the original adoption papers from the original family? Why aren't they coming out and speaking about it in defense of Natalia Grace? They're the ones that adopted her originally. But Natalia Grace has to continue to fight this over and over and over again. And like I said, if it comes out and we find out that she's 42 years old, then you know what? I will talk about that and address it at that time. But at this point, I don't see any proof to prove that she's an adult, right? But at the end of the day, let's just say she is. Let's say she's 56 years old, okay? And the whole thing was a hoax and she lied about it and everything like that, right? Did she still deserve the abuse that she suffered? No, she didn't. So you got Natalia Grace having to defend herself about being such a horrible, nasty, lying, manipulating person, okay? And you've got Gypsy Rose Blanchard being lifted up. I mean, she got literally handed social media platform with 8, 9, 10 million people, okay? Is making money off of books and TV shows. And the excuse is that she feels bad that she did it and she realizes now that there are other options. went through a lot in my childhood. A lot of things I never talk about in my videos. Some I do. I went through a lot. I got sober at 22 and a half years old. I was almost the exact same age as Gypsy Rose Blanchard when she was a part of the killing of her mother. I was held to a lot higher standard, okay? And forced to take responsibility and accountability for 100,000 times less than what she did, all right? My battery died and I had to go get another battery. The woes of being a YouTuber right when you're getting into something serious. So anyway, I was talking about that I was almost the same age, actually younger than Gypsy Rose Blanchard, okay, when I got sober. And, you know, I can remember going into treatment and getting out of treatment, and it wasn't my first time at the rodeo of attempting to get sober. And I can remember when I got out, my dad said something to me. You know, I was talking about, like, we were talking about, like, him being proud of me and things like that. And my dad was very angry, very, very angry about everything that I had put him through, you know? And I can remember my dad said to me at that time, you're not a C becoming an A, you're an F becoming a C, all right? You getting sober is just, like, I'm proud of you, I'm glad that you're doing this, you know? And this is for you. But it's you just learning to live where everybody else is at, okay? So just baseline, be a good person, be a good human being, okay? You know, don't get in trouble with the law and things like that. Gypsy Rose Blanchard got out of prison, and she basically went from like an F to an A+ overnight, all right? I don't understand it. I don't understand the uplifting of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. I really do not understand it, okay? And I think, you know, there's a lot of pieces of her story. There's a lot that's going on. But, you know, there's similar cases in the world where people have suffered abuse and have participated in the murder of their abuser and things like that, that don't get the same thing. It's almost kind of like Gypsy Rose Blanchard is a cult figure, and she has this cult following around her, right? And so when I see these young people that are starting, a lot of TikTokers are starting to question it, it's like, okay, so you related to her at the beginning, and she was like this cult figure that you were like following and that you're like so into and stuff like that, and now that you're connecting the pieces, you are like, oh no, like I don't believe in her anymore, and the tables are turning, and she said this and she said that and whatever. All that evidence has been out there. When people are like, oh, you need to watch this and you need to hear that, I've watched parts of those shows. I've watched the interviews. I haven't heard Gypsy Rose Blanchard say anything new. And I do not need all the shows linked in the comment section below. Okay? I just don't. Because I know the story. I watched the interviews. I watched parts of the documentaries. I know, okay? Well, I watched all the past documentaries. I watched parts of the new documentaries that have come out. I haven't heard Gypsy Rose Blanchard say anything new since she's come out that she said before all this happened. Or that I already knew from the past documentaries, the past articles that I read, you know, on and on and on. I haven't seen anything new that she said. Oh, she got into TikTok and she Google searched the definition of Munchausen by proxy because she's an advocate for Munchausen by proxy, so that's what's selling her book and her TV shows. And so she did a TikTok, Google searching that. Okay, girl. So I need somebody to explain this to me, because the comments that I get with people defending Gypsy Rose Blanchard and being like, yes, but you need to watch this and need to hear what... I don't need to hear anything that she has to say. I really don't. I feel bad for her abuse that she suffered. I don't think it's an excuse for murder, and I definitely don't think it's an excuse for her to be one of the most famous people of 2024. What's Time Magazine going to give her Person of the Year at the end of the year? I mean, seriously? Like, that's where we're headed with it right now, right? I don't need to watch any more documentaries about her. I don't care about her. I don't, okay? Go live your life. Be happy with your husband. Do things you haven't been able to do for 8 years. How about be a positive contribution to society? You know? How about just wake up every day and be a good person? That's not a lot to ask, okay? Go live your life. You've been locked up for 8 years. Go live your life, okay? But I don't need to know anything about her anymore. I don't need to know about her story anymore, okay? Especially when I have people defending her, but then putting down Natalia Grace. Like, that to me is such a weird, like, vibe. I don't even get it, okay? That Natalia Grace, who literally did nothing, she is demanded to prove herself, right? But Gypsy Rose Blanchard was part of a murder. And we should make her Person of the Year. Make that make sense. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Well, no, I'll see you on Monday. Bye.